Alright, hello everyone. I'm back at it again, doing another rant video about Spectrum News, NY1, where it seems, once again, they don't care about major news stories that have been going on lately, per usual. So there's two stories that they really didn't spend a lot of time talking about this week. In fact, one is still currently happening as we speak here in Queens. And it's very disgusting that, NY1 again just doesn't seem to care about the crime. They only had one notable thing that happened in Astoria that the Queens Courier did. Well, it might be in separate incident, but I don't know. All I know is I'm just very frustrated with this TV station. To think that, they're supposed to cover news in New York City 24 hours a day. Technically, they don't, because sometimes you'll get that rare rerun of Inside City Hall or the Broadway program or wherever they are, This TV station is despicable, and I'm really ashamed of them. And this is why, again, I just cannot stand Altice, not Altice, Charter. That's the company that owns Spectrum. So, this would not have happened if the Warner Brothers was still owning NY1. Alright? So I wish the Warner Brothers would get involved and take over NY1 again. Because that's what made NY1 great. But it seems, we're Charter. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but I'm just so frustrated with this TV station. I mean, look at their homepage. They're talking about the election. Oh, look at this. Staten Island's competitive general election races, including for borough president. So the one rare time they come to Staten Island to talk about their politics. Yeah, I'm sure there's other stories that, that are in Staten Island, but I'm not going to focus on that because there's so many stories that have happened in Queens that have gotten ignored. Okay, so look at this. You got Eric Adams. I get a bad feeling if Eric Adams becomes mayor, they're going to have a love fest with him. That's the obvious. So let's go to their public safety page and take a look and see what's going on here. Alright, so there was a stabbing at a high school in the Bronx and a library and all things. Oh, and then lawmakers in Albany are making accusations that district attorneys are not following bail reform laws. How pathetic. Murders and shootings are down. No, what about other violent crimes? Oh, and then look at this. NY1 only spent 26 seconds covering the woman who's mentally ill and should either be at Creedmoor or should either be in jail. This woman right here should have never been allowed on the New York City subway system. Crazy. I don't see anything about the man that's hanging out in the tree in Brookdale. NY1's not even covering that. Yeah, I'm looking for Queens. See if we can find it on the Queens section. Let's see. Nope. Nope. Nothing on the Queens section. Nothing. Nothing. Zip. Zero. Nada. I'm going to keep this in another tab for later. I'm keep it on there. Nothing on it. So, guess what we're going to have to read from? That's right, the New York Daily News. So, I'm going to zoom out so you can see this. See the headline carefully. Leave me alone. Unhinged Queens man climbed up a tree to avoid police where he remains a day later. So that's why I'm going to title this video, NY1 ignores major NYPD standoff in Queens. That's why I'm going to title it that. Because they're ignoring a big story. This is a big story that I know Channel 5 covered for a few seconds last night because I was watching the football game between the Rams and the Seahawks last night, which was very interesting. And I will mention for Jet fans, Geno Smith threw his first touchdown since 2017 last night. But that's not the point. Let's just stay on topic. So I found this out from Fox 5 last night. Here we go. An unhinged 44-year-old man wanted for threatening his mother, zoom in so you can see it clearly, and assaulting his girlfriend, climbed a tree outside of his Queens home to avoid cops and has remained there for more than 24 hours, police from the 105 precinct said on Thursday. And by the way, this is in the confines of the 105 precinct. I know their dispatch area very well because they serve Long Island Jewish. The renegade arborist remained in a tall spruce on the sidewalk outside his home Thursday, refusing to come down despite pleas from the police from the 105 precinct for him to come back to Earth. Sources from the 105 precinct said. The 105 precinct was called to a two-story Springfield Gardens home on 145th Avenue near 225th Street around 12:45 p.m. So look at this. This guy's been there for almost 48 hours. So this has happened on Wednesday. So it says the man argued with his family and had threatened his mother. When cops arrived, they realized that he was also wanted for punching his 50-year-old girlfriend back on September 30th. So there was an assault on the girlfriend 2 weeks ago. The two sat in a car on Merrick Boulevard near 225th Street. The man refused to surrender. In an attempt to flee, he scrambled to the top of the home's peaked roof and refused to come down. Afterwards, police from the 105 precinct called the emergency service unit from the NYPD, and they even called in the hostage negotiation team. Speaking of the police, I just heard the siren. 107 precinct just went by. So anyhow, let's continue. So they were begging the suspect to encourage his surrender. He jumped from a roof onto a thick branch of a 30-foot tree on the sidewalk outside of his home. By 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon, cops were getting hoarse, encouraging the man to climb down. The street remained blocked off to traffic as authorities and neighbors tried to coax him down and even offered him beer and rum as an incentive. Oh, and I will mention, 1010 Wins even covered this. So you would think that NY1 would cover on their website. Maybe on the air, but not on the website. So there you go. There's more proof. More proof. And then look at this. Homicide in the Bronx. I'll read that one. The man was still reported in the tree late Thursday evening, and as of now, and according to my news apps, I'm checking them right now, the only thing I got was a reminder that the Columbus Day Parade is on for Monday. So, that's all I got. There you go. There you go. I mean, again, I'm just going to say this right now. The 105 precinct has a really tough job trying to get this guy to come down, so maybe he will surrender. Maybe he won't. We'll see. So, NY1 also didn't cover this. Homicide in the Bronx. Let's read this. Okay, so I'm just waiting for it to zoom in. There we go. That way you can see it. I know how bad it is if you're on a smartphone or a tablet and you can't read it. Yeah, in fact, it looks smaller than the other article we just read. Okay, here we go. Oh, I hate these ads. Because if you get rid of the ad blocker, it works because it's complicated on the Daily News website. 42-year-old man was fatally shot on a Bronx street corner in broad daylight. So look at this. NY1 should cover this. A broad daylight homicide shooting. The murder happened at 2:25 p.m. yesterday afternoon at River Avenue in East 151st Street in the Melrose section of the Bronx. Police said that Johnson was shot in the chest, was rushed to medics to Lincoln Hospital, but could not be saved. No other information was immediately available. So there you go. Homicide in the Bronx that should have been covered. But New York 1 didn't cover that either. And then let's get to this story. This was a big deal earlier this week. Woman accused of pushing strap hanger into oncoming Times Square subway train held on $100,000 bail. Let's read this one. And there's a video of the incident. So watch this. Look at this mentally ill woman. Look at this. She just gets up. Watch. It just shoves the woman right into the train. I know this platform very well at Times Square. That could have been me. Alright, that could have been me waiting for a downtown train to get to Penn Station to connect with the Long Island Railroad. This woman, again, did not belong in the New York City subway system. She should have been at a psych ward like Creedmoor or, in jail. In Rikers Island. De Blasio wants to get rid of Rikers. It's clearly obvious. So here we go. A Manhattan judge ordered a woman accused of pushing a strap hanger into an oncoming subway train in Times Square to be held on $100,000 bail on Wednesday, October 6th. Prosecutors from the NYPD charged Antonina Eguibara, age 29, with attempted murder and assault for shoving Lenny Javier into the side of an Uptown #1 train. Okay, so this was an Uptown train. Okay, yeah. But still, that could have been me. God forbid. So this happened on the Monday morning rush. Footage of the caught-on-video assault shows Eguibara sitting on a platform bench as the train pulls into the Midtown station. Eguibara jumps from her seat, using her shoulder to slam into an unsuspecting Javier from behind, causing the victim's shoe to fall off. Javier was knocked backwards by the train and crashed to the platform floor. Medics treated her at Mount Sinai Hospital for a broken nose and cuts and bruises all over her body. The woman's family members told the Daily News in the attacker's wake. So, I will say, Channel 2 did a good job covering this. I will say that. So, the suspect is due back in court today. Interesting. So, let's watch Jonathan DeSouza from Passengers United, which I'm in complete agreement about the state police coming down here, but I was a little bit overboard with the National Guard when I tweeted that earlier this week, but I am in agreement we need the state police.
Jonathan DeSouza with Passengers United held a press conference Monday night. He says 185 members of the grassroots organization are fighting to better public transit conditions. And DeSouza believes the MTA needs more than local law enforcement support.
We need state troopers. I'm calling on Governor Kathy Hochul to give us 100 to 200 state troopers and to bring down about 100 National Guardsmen. Because right now the NYPD is short-staffed on security. They don't have enough security to possibly do patrols down here.
In a statement, the NYPD said it, quote, on a...
All right, I don't even want to read the statement, but you get the idea. You get the idea of what's going on, because it all goes back to last year. It all goes back to de Blasio making sure that he would cut the funding from the NYPD. All goes back to that. I don't even have to read this article. You just need to see the headline from the New York Times. This is the same article I have a fascination with. De Blasio, end quote, vows for first time to cut funding from the NYPD. Meanwhile, I'll just randomly bring this up. Look what Nassau County's doing. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Nassau County Executive Laura Kern's 2022 fiscal year budget for the county plans for $45 million in new spending for public safety. County executives proposing to hire 70 new officers in the police department, sheriff's office, probation, and more. So there you go. Nassau County is actually spending money into its police department. Unlike New York City, where, again, the headline reads carefully right here. So, let's rewind the video. Let's rewind the video. I'm just going to keep Charlton on pause if I can find him. Hey, look at this. They got his name wrong. But you get the point. Charlton and I are right. Because de Blasio cut the funding last year, transit police do not have the right resources. They don't. De Blasio caved in to the Black Lives Matter movement. And this is the ripple effect of what we're dealing with. This is what's happening here. And then look at de Blasio thinking he knows what's best for us.
I would caution against other forces coming in because the environment here is very different than what state police or National Guard are trained for. I think for folks with a different kind of training, this is a very challenging environment, and sometimes there can be unintended consequences. So I would not encourage those other forces. I would say NYPD, with the additional presence they've put in the sub.
Can you believe this guy? This is why if we get Sliwa in the short run, the state police should at least come down here starting in January. Alright, once Sliwa gets sworn in January, and I hope Sliwa does win, you know, you gotta make sure that Sliwa puts the pressure on Governor Hochul to send the state police down here. Because we need state police. It's getting way out of hand. And then the other thing is, the Guardian Angels may have to take over that contract for homeless outreach from the Bowery residents. Whatever that C thing. I don't even know what the C thing is. All I know is we're in very deep trouble. Because of this idiot who's ruined my city now for the past 8 years. And he's out of office in less than 3 months. He's going to make things worse in 3 months. He's already planning to leave a bigger mess for Curtis Sliwa. He's purposely planning this. Alright? I said, folks, you gotta do some common sense, alright? You have a job to do on November 2nd. Make sure Curtis Sliwa becomes our next mayor. Because I'm out of here if Eric Adams wins. By the way, there's an update on that fight.
Tourists involved in a brawl outside Carmine's restaurant face a judge. It was caught on camera last month. The women today were arraigned on assault and harassment charges. Carmine says the group attacked the hostess after she asked for proof of vaccination. Now, a lawyer representing the tourists claimed the fight started after the hostess used a racial slur. The women were released on their own recognizance and they're due back in court next month.
So there you go. You know, false racism at its finest. This is what Mark Dice talks about all the time. He did a video about it. Alright, you knew the city was enforcing a vaccination policy. If you're gonna eat inside a restaurant, you need proof of vaccination. So there you go. There you go with how unicidal our city has gotten. So look at this: de Blasio's failure to help mentally ill. You know, it's in the New York Post. And then the bigger headline was this part right here. This is what I was looking for from the New York Post. Let's just go back to the story I was just talking about. NYC subway driver was free on assault case thanks to the bail reform law. So there you go. This is why bail reform has got to get repealed. I keep saying it. Nobody wants to listen to me. A mentally ill woman was busted in an unprovoked attempt murder at the Times Square subway station, was locked up on $100,000 bail. So you know that. Oh, look at this. The same suspect was arrested for a separate incident back in July. You just cannot make this stuff up. You just can't. Oh, and then look at this. Egarborough, who has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, has a history of arrest and complaints about being an emotionally disturbed person that dates back to 2010. So, one of those calls just came days after a Harlem assault when she began arguing with staffers at a homeless shelter in Far Rockaway in Queens. And look at this. Back in July of last year, police found her throwing items out of an apartment window in the Bronx. And of course, she's going to get taken in the Transit District 1. That would make sense, because that's the precinct that serves Times Square. Now, this is interesting. Brad Lander, the Democrat controller nominee, is claiming that he wants all 5 of the city's district attorneys to immediately stop requesting bail in all cases. So maybe I was wrong about Brad Lander. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's just bowing down to Curtis Sliwa, because Sliwa doesn't want the same thing either. Oh, boy. I don't know. I mean, there is going to be pressure on Brad Lander either way. You know, it sounds like he is going to be the controller. Because even though I feel bad for John Tobacco, he should have been the Republican nominee. In fact, Sliwa wanted him to be the controller. But, you know, even I like John Tobacco, but still. So, there is another thing that I was talking about a couple weeks ago. That Lady Governor thinks it's a wonderful idea to expand the bail reform law. And what's going on is our governor thinks it's a wonderful idea to expand on her predecessor's idea and release inmates from Rikers Island. So there you go. This is Miss New Yorkers Love Me. Or Mrs. New Yorkers Love Me. Not Lady Governor anymore. She's really getting on my nerve, because she is married. She's starting to become like her predecessor. Mr. New Yorkers Love Me's probably still giving her guidance for all we know. You know, why can't we have a leader like this lady right here? Not too much to ask for a Democrat that actually leans towards law and order? Not too much to ask? Well, let's get into the other stories that have been ignored in Queens. Now, this is an environment issue, all right? If you're going to impact the parks now, this crime issue is going to impact the parks, especially locally in Elmhurst. Then you got another thing coming, Lady Governor. You got another thing coming. Homeless man charged with attempted murder and stabbing a Hoffman Park volunteer. A Manhattan homeless man was arrested and charged Thursday for allegedly stabbing a volunteer who was distributing food in Elmhurst Hoffman Park in September. Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz announced that 37-year-old Daniel Lulay, age 37, was arraigned before Queens Criminal Court Judge Denise Johnson in Kew Gardens, and a complaint charging him with attempted murder, assault, and other crimes for allegedly attacking Rick Istrabon as he handed out food to other homeless people. Police said that Delore had grown agitated when the volunteer arrived late to the park to hand out free meals. According to the charges, at around 10 p.m. on September 21st, Istrabon was inside Hoffman Park at Woodhaven Boulevard and Hoffman Drive when Delore began to argue with him and then allegedly attacked him. The 43-year-old victim was pushed to the ground and then fell on a sharp object piercing his skin. EMS responded to the crime scene and transported Istrabon to Elmhurst Hospital Center, where he needed emergency surgery. District Attorney Katz said, "Violence is never an acceptable way to resolve a dispute. The defendant is, in this case, argue with the man that allegedly punched and stabbed him. He will now face justice in our courts. Judge Johnson ordered the law to return to court in Kew Gardens on October 8th. He faced up to 25 years in prison if convicted. So, I will say, you know, I was kind of wrong about Melinda Katz. I mean, I've been impressed with the job she has been doing as DA lately. She has been more vocal about the crime in the past couple of months. And mind you, she used to be Curtis Lewa's wife. So, maybe there's a lot of pressure on her because, again, her former husband may end up being the mayor of New York City in January. So, she's probably planning for that. So, a lot of stuff that's going on here. A lot of stuff. A lot of crime here. I don't want to read into everything, but I just wanted to read that story that happened in Elmhurst, because that was just a disturbing one. So there were 2 shootings in Astoria that we're going to get into. So let's get into what's going on in Astoria, because again, I keep talking about how the media here in the city is constantly forgetting about the crime issue going on in Astoria. So let's get into it. So this happened a couple weeks ago. Let's read this. So this happened back on, just confirming the date. So I'm going to wrap up the video once we get to the Elmhurst Astoria issues. So here we go. Incidents happened on September 24th. So looks like there was a homicide reported. Lovely. 2 people dead and 1 other person injured. Investigators say officers from the 114th Precinct responded to a call of shots fired near 30-06 Astoria Boulevard in Astoria around 11:30 p.m. When they arrived at the scene, they found 2 men shot. Police say Anthony Edwards, 31 of Queens, had been shot twice in the face. He was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital where he was pronounced dead. A second victim, a 30-year-old man, suffered a gunshot wound to the groin. The other victim was taken to Hoffman Hospital's Elmhurst in stable condition. Obviously, no suspect wanted. There's an ongoing investigation. So there you go. Homicide in Astoria should have been covered. You know, I barely even heard anything about this. And New York One has a brief article. An hour earlier in the same evening, a 20-year-old man was killed after being shot in the torso and leg. This incident happened just before 11 p.m. outside 84-01 102nd Street, 102nd Road in Ozone Park. Police say when officers from the 102nd Precinct arrived at the scene, they were informed the victim was transported privately to Jamaica Hospital Medical Center, where he later died. Same incident, no suspect identified, no arrests have been made. So, Ozone Park, of course, you're not going to get covered because of the Latino demographic. So that's obviously going to make sense. Meanwhile, in Astoria, where it's the largest Greek population of anywhere else in the United States, you know, it's very shameful that the crime in Astoria each and every day just seems to get worse. So let's get to this other incident that happened on Steinway Street. So here we go. Police from the 114th Precinct are looking for a suspect who was wearing a distinctive t-shirt just before 4 a.m. on October 3rd when he opened fire multiple times with his handgun in front of 28-48 Steinway Street. Are you kidding me? That's a major typo right there. It's not Steinway Street. Get rid of the S. 29-year-old man was struck in the back and a 22-year-old man was shot in the right hip, according to the NYPD. The gunman fled on foot southbound on Steinway, and the 2 victims were able to make it to Elmhurst Hospital by private means. The NYPD released surveillance photos and videos of the suspect wearing a dark shirt with an NBA written across the back logo for Louis Vuitton. He was seen wearing torn jeans and dark sneakers. So, There you go. There's a gun right there. Right there. So hopefully this victim's going to be okay. But still, I mean, a shooting on Steinway Street. My goodness. This is what I constantly keep talking about. How Astoria used to be a very good area to live in. And now all of a sudden it's being redlined. And now let's get to Laura Uhl. Because again, I'm not going to constantly read from the Queens Courier. Alright, because that'll just make this video longer. So let me find it. Oh, lovely. Look at this. The media didn't cover this. Fire in a home near St. John's University. FDNY reported a fire at 84-71 170th Street. This is a 3-story private dwelling house near St. John's. EMS reports injuries. The fire is in both floors. So this should have been covered. So let me see if I can find that, yeah, in Little Neck. Here we go. Here we go. Victims robbed in Little Neck. Police reported a victim was robbed on 73rd Avenue and 244th Street. This is in Little Neck. The incident was reported on September 27th around 1 p.m. Another victim was robbed on September 25th around midnight on Horace Harney Expressway near 254th Street. You gotta be kidding me. So a robbery happened right by the Little Neck Shopping Plaza. And then 73rd Avenue and 244th Street. That's not too far from where Douglaston Parkway is. Police also report multiple robbery attempts on Little Neck Parkway in the vicinity of the Grand Central Parkway and Long Island Expressway. So, there you go. Oh, and then look at this. 10-year-old girl robbed in Corona. Police report a 10-year-old female child was walking to school was robbed in Corona. It happened Wednesday morning on 34th Avenue and 102nd Street. The loser suspect, all daring, approached the victim and stole her cell phone. Then took off on a small bike with pink and white butterflies. The victim suffered minor injuries and was treated by a school nurse. So how pathetic. How pathetic. So let me just see if I can find this story. Yeah. This is it right here. This is a very important story that should have been covered because this happened on the N22 bus route that serves both Nassau County and Queens County. Police reported on October 5th attempted robbery in New Hyde Park turned stabbing into a nice bus. It happened on 2 p.m. on Hillside Avenue near Marcus Avenue. The suspect tried to rob a 67-year-old victim but fought back only to get stabbed. Shortly, the suspect was caught on Marcus Avenue. So, a lot of crime in Long Island, and, you know, I would suggest if you want Long Island, just watch Pine Power LI on YouTube, because you know how consistent he is on that. But again, I'm more consistent about New York City, and specifically about what's going on in Queens. And, you know, a lot of other stories that just constantly get ignored, the Queens Courier seems to cover them more in one regard. But, you know, I'm still more upset about the real pandemic in Astoria. You know, it's been going on now for a very long time. That the crime is getting worse and worse and worse over there. And I wish, you know, I really wish the Curtis Lewa would spend more time in Astoria. Because you have a very good candidate, Felicia Kalan, taking on the socialist Tiffany Caban. Oh, and trust me, if Tiffany Caban wins, that district's done. Alright? So I really hope Felicia Kalan wins in that district. Because that's the district that also serves Rikers Island, by the way. Well, I just got this breaking news story just now from the NBC4 New York app, and I just had to quickly find it and Google it. Pix11 has an article, so I'm going to read this. 3-year-old boy killed in fall out of a Harlem apartment window. I bet New York One's not even going to cover this either. 3-year-old boy died Friday morning after apparently falling out the window of a Harlem apartment. The NYPD said the call came in around 10:20 a.m. for an unconscious child outside a building on West 133rd Street between Adam Clayton Powell and Frederick Douglass Boulevard. Responding officers were told by EMS they found the toddler behind the building unconscious and unresponsive. His injuries were indicative of a fall from an elevated position. The boy was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was soon pronounced dead. So, probably neglectful parents that just didn't see the child near the window, I guess. Or a guardian. And look at this, because I found out from Channel 4 that they did release the name of the kid. Officials identified the young victim as Daniel Galeas. He lives just blocks away on West 137th Street. It was unclear how high up the window was from which the child likely had fell. The medical examiner will determine the boy's official cause of death. So, there you go. Probably another story that New York 1 may not even cover, because you know the demographics in Harlem, it's Latino and black, so it's likely going to get ignored. I'm going to wrap this up. And again, New York 1, I'm really shameful of you. You really have let yourself go each and every day, and I'm going to keep calling you out when you don't cover big news stories. So thank you all for watching.